Okay, we're still on page 501 looking at this power grid. Anyway, the idea is that this is a good way to kind of categorize your stakeholders to see which ones you need to deal with. So, those people who have high interest but don't really have much, or I'm sorry, they have a lot of power but they don't really care, you just kind of keep them satisfied, right? You know, it's like, hey, I'd like a report on this every Tuesday. Okay, I'll produce a report for you every Tuesday. These over here where they have high interest but they don't really have much of an influence, you just keep them informed of what's going on. So monitor, keep satisfied, manage closely. And again, managing stakeholders is kind of a presumptuous term, so we'll talk about what that really means in just a minute. Okay, so the planning part of this, right? The planning part is this stakeholder management plan. That's the output. The output of the planning step is a plan. Okay. Now, their plan basically talks about, well, let's just go through it. So, you know, the person's name, you know, where they are on the power grid, you know, are they interested in whatever, what their current engagement is. In other words, right now, where are they in this step? So what you really should have is not only their current engagement, but what you want that engagement to be. So there really should be an extra column in here. Their current engagement level. For example, here, this person, whoever that is, Chin is a very organized yet hard-headed man. He has been pushing corporate IT standards and blah, 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 blah. So he's resistant to this project. So currently resistant, and you want him to kind of be switch over to neutral, or perhaps you want him to be supportive. So it's the before and after. Got it. Cool. So here's how it works. So the current and desired engagement level, the inner relationships. Now, this is kind of difficult. If someone is has a boss and the boss disagrees, but this guy doesn't disagree, or vice versa, you need to kind of understand the dynamics behind this. Is it okay for a subordinate to make a recommendation that the boss doesn't like? So you need to know what those inner relationships are, and that's very, very personal, right? I mean, you can't just make up stuff. You got to go. You basically have to live there to be able to tell. Is it okay for someone to disagree? The communication requirements and preferences, I've mentioned before that I don't particularly like talking on the phone. I'd much prefer, you send me an email. Some people don't say, well, don't call me on the phone. That's dumb. Send me a text message instead. So whatever they want, whatever the expectations are, you kind of sort of need to know that. And then some sort of a management strategy, which is this thing. This is some thinking that you put in that talk about how I'm going to try to solve this problem. So in this particular case, it talks about need to convince him that this is okay and that people will still respect his work and position. Okay? So that's the strategy. The strategy here is to say, okay, Bob, this project is not going to put you out of work, and everyone's still going to respect your position, and you still have a viable role here, and this doesn't affect any of that, and so you really there's no reason why you should be resistant to this project. So you need to work on that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the last thing to talk about is you got to update and manage the plan itself, because the plan might be great, but you need to kind of keep it going, particularly whatever their current thing is. You got to manage their expectations. You can probably imagine that this is a sensitive part, right? And you probably would not want to put this in the official documentation of your project that gets archived away. And you certainly don't want to have it exposed to the public or even hand it to any one of these people. Because this talks about, you could have, Bob down here. Well, Bob's a real SOB. He hates everything, that kind of stuff. But he likes malt whiskey, and so maybe if you bring him a bottle of whiskey and set it on his desk, he might approve this project. That kind of stuff, you don't want to put that in the public record. Okay. On 503, they talk about the managing step. Okay, so you remember we talked about what is the definition of success of a project, and you could say, well, it's a triple constraint. It was on time, was on budget, and it met all the scope. Maybe. That's what most people think success is, but it very well could be something else. It could be in addition to the triple constraint, or perhaps in lieu of it. It could be, no, this is all about market share. Right? So, for example, when Microsoft decided to get into the game console business, okay, they wanted to make the Xbox. There were two other big competitors out there. And Microsoft knew that for the first 2 or 3 years, they weren't going to make any profit whatsoever in the sales of their game consoles. Okay, they knew that. All they were going was for market share. They wanted to be able to grab part of the market and then slowly dig themselves out of the hole, so to speak. So sometimes it's market share. Sometimes it's stock price. Hey, we're going to do this because the investors love this kind of stuff. Does anybody want this project? No. Does anyone care? No. As long as the stockholders are as long as our stock price goes up, we're going to do it. Okay. So it could be quality, it could be market share, it could be all these other things. And you need to figure out what each person thinks this project is all about. Because if one person says it's market share, and the finance person says, oh my God, no, it's not market share, it's profit, short-term profit, well, then you've got a problem. Okay. All right. So there's this thing called the expectation matrix. All right. So some people are going to say, scope is the most important. So somebody put in what they think is the most important here. The scope and time. And this person basically says technology and standards is number 2. So in this particular case, this could be the case study at the beginning. I can't really tell. But anyway, the bottom line is adhering to the corporate IT standards is in this person's mind is more important than how much it costs. Okay, so keeping it within the scope, keeping it within the time schedule, meeting all the corporate IT standards, and then cost. So cost is clearly not the first importance here. Cool. So what happens if you got people who do not agree of what success is? Well, again, you got a problem. Your finance director says no, short-term profit, and your strategic, CEO type says no, it's market share. We're going to take a loss for 2 years. You are never going to meet in the middle. Okay, you're just going to have to say, I'm sorry, we can't have both. We can't lose money for 2 years and make profit in the first quarter. We can't have both. All right, so yes, that's going to be a problem. The issue log. Every time someone comes up with an issue, you probably need to be writing it down. So, for example, here's one. Needs requirements categories as mandatory and optional. In other words, when they put together the requirements, somebody forgot to put, this is a required requirement, a mandatory requirement or optional, like an optional feature. It must have this, and this. And then over here we could get these, but they're not absolutely critical. So, they forgot to do this. So the impact is I can't do much. So it was reported by, it was assigned to, it's a high priority, the date and what the current status is, and then they went in and did something. Okay. Now, you guys remember the story I told about I was in a meeting and this guy said, I'd like to add voice recognition to your project, and we all kind of laughed. And no one wrote it down. And then later, they came, when it was come time to field this thing, he says, well, where's the voice recognition? And I'd love to be able to say, oh, we thought that was a joke. But quite frankly, the honest answer is I didn't remember it. Okay, everyone else in the room remembered it, but I didn't remember it. But anyway, the point was I thought it was a joke. And so I didn't write it down. That's bad. You need to be writing everything down, even if you think it's a joke. Okay. Of all these things, documenting these kind of issues and monitoring and tracking, the thing that is the most important is this thing right here, assigned to. Okay. You don't ever want to have an issue log where you say, yep, that needs to be done. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I agree. It needs to be done. Oh, you wanted me to do it? Oh, I didn't understand that. So it's got to be assigned to someone. Okay. Now, I keep talking about, I use this example a lot in this course called Bugzilla. Now, I just want to show you an example of a Bugzilla thing. All right, so Bugzilla is a free piece of software. You can download it, install it, your thing. It basically is the same people who make like the Mozilla people, the people who make the Firefox browser. All right. So recently, I had a problem with exporting some certificates from my Firefox browser. So I I typed in a couple things and I found this. Now let's just go through this because this is a classic example of an issue log, and it's got some interesting things in it. All right, so first of all, the name of the bug. Exported certificates exceeds Windows password iteration count. Okay. It's assigned to JCJ. So right now it has been assigned. So what's the status? Well, first of all, what the product is and what the component is and what's the importance. They apparently didn't think this was all that important. It only got a normal priority. Assigned. It was reported 2 months ago, but the status had been modified just 7 days ago. The people, involved, I guess I could extend this out, who first reported it and who triaged it, and 14 people got carbon copied on this thing, and J.C. Jones is the one who got responsible for this. So, in this particular case, we're talking about the version of Firefox where this occur is version number 59. And so, and he goes through and whether or not these things got resolved. I'm going to get down here to the point where he talks about the actual work. It says right here, it says it went through triaged. Wow, that's a weird term. It went to security, and then the product went to the core, and then when finally we get down to here, there's a cool thing where it talks about. Let me find the section here where it actually says that we're not going to fix it. Here we go. Status affected. Oh, doggone it. I need to find that section here. Here we go. Here we go. Status Firefox 59 affected won't fix. Okay? What they basically meant was the target is the next version, which is number 61. So what they're basically saying is, we found it. We agree. Yes, it's a problem. It affects this version, but we're not going to fix it in this version at all. What we're going to do is we're just going to let that hang, and we're going to release it in the bug is going to be in the next version. So when you read this, I know who did it. I know what their strategy is. I know that they appreciated the fact that it was a bug, although I don't particularly think it was a low priority. And what they basically said, how they're going to fix it, basically they said, wait until version number 61 comes out. Okay. And so this was fixed in the 60 beta and blah, 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 blah. All right. So one more time. Bugzilla, it does all those things we talked about. It talks about description, categorization, assignment, who's working on it, who got carbon copied on it, who's responsible, what the current status is. And then this has an entire description of absolutely everything that happened from beginning to end, ending to 7 days ago, where the guy says, looks like it's fixed. It's still a priority one, and it's been assigned, and it's Firefox fixed. So the new version of Firefox will have this thing fixed, is the point they're trying to get to. Okay, so you can kind of sort of tell I like Bugzilla. Yeah. People call me, send me emails and say, I think you need to add this feature to your application. I always send them a note back saying, thank you for your idea. That's a pretty cool idea. I'll consider it for the next release. And then I enter it into a little database like this, so that when I do get around to it, which might be like 6 months later, I'll admit. So 6 months later, I go, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. So I've got a stack of change requests. And it's not enough to go in and make a change, but if it's a stack of them, I'll go ahead and add all those, and then I'll fire off emails to each one of those people who sent me something, saying, okay, I got it in this new release, thank you. And so it's basically the same email that gets sent to all 7 people. But doesn't that basically show that I'm on top of things and I care about their input? Yeah. Isn't that like stakeholder management? Yeah. Okay, we're coming up on the 15-minute mark. You know what we're doing.